Hey guys, welcome back to the letter. In last episode, Rebecca went to the mansion and basically redid the mansion scene again, except she got a little pissed off at Ash because he really wasn't paying any attention to her. And now she made a phone call to a doctor. I think it was the teacher or something. So we're going to continue on and see what's happening with her and the doctor. Professor Andrew Clark has agreed to meet with me 2 days later in front of Luxbourne's public library. He has other commitments, but being a longtime friend has its perks. I have parents' connection to thank that. Of course, I'm not the sort of person to impose on him often, but the situation is, well, it's not even entirely bad, although it does require calling in a few favors from a friend like him. Without his signature, I won't be able to gain access to the library, restricted area. If I want to get more to-depth information on the Ermengarde Mansion, that is, not simply what they choose to show in the general public. As much as I hate to admit it, there's always something people censor, and whatever it is, I won't ever find it in the general section. It has to be what they're keeping from here, beyond the public eye. The thought of that alone makes me antsy. Thankfully, I don't have to brood over it. The wait for the professor doesn't take long. He never did enjoy making people wait. Likewise, he dislikes people who are tardy. He arrives 5 minutes after I do, greeting me with the kind of smile and the casual wave of his hand. I haven't seen him in a long time, but it appears he hasn't changed much. His familiar presence alone is enough to fond smile to spread across my face.
Professor Andrew!
Rebecca! Didn't I say long ago you can drop the professor?
You know I can't possibly do that. Even if I can, it feels disrespectful to call you by your name alone.
Both you and Ashton never listen to this old man. Kids these days.
All right, but just for today, since you're doing me a huge favor, Andrew.
I guess you simply can't have it all, even at this old age. But pleasantries aren't what we're here for, yes? You mentioned you needed a permit.
Yes, sir, if that's okay with you.
More than fine. Anything in pursuit of knowledge, as they say.
He hands me the permit without further prompting. And just like he promised, he also written a recommendation after his signature. This is more than enough to get me those files. I mutter a small thanks before slipping it into my pocket. Although when I look back up, his brows are furrowed and very face of curiosity. Not surprising considering how vague I've been during our little time over the phone. Right then and there, I decided to tell him if he ever asked. Maybe not at all, but stuff he needs to know. It's the least I could do to thank him. As expected, true to his inquisitive nature, he asked.
If you don't mind, though, I know you've always been an eager learner. But may I know what in the restricted section that piqued your curiosity?
It's the Ermengarde Mansion, sir.
He's quickly to raise a brow at that, and for a while, I fear he'll take a slip of paper back. Is there something I said?
The ones they have out in the general isn't enough?
I'm, hoping for a more in-depth read, sir. More about the history and the people who once lived there. The general section doesn't have anything much on that.
Oh, I see. Well, you certainly aren't the first one to be enamored with that place. It doesn't shock me. The architecture is admirable, and the urban legends are something to talk about. Why, just this past week, I've got a few asking me about that. Imagine that.
I think enamored might be a little too much to describe our interest in it. But I have to agree. The mansion is beautiful, even with the renovations. They kept the stained glass windows, too. They are magnificent.
Oh, you've seen it.
I was there for a few hours to attend a housewarming party. The invitation was for my parents, but my mum used to work as a private tutor for the Evans. Hannah Wright?
Ah, I know of her. Her husband, too. Who doesn't? Luxbourne's most popular couple.
Something falls behind his eyes, the warmth in them suddenly gone. Like he's reliving a painful, distant memory and saying it play right in front of him. It disappears almost as soon as it surfaces, with that last look that unsettles something in me.
Is something the matter?
Nothing much. But you know, you're already like a daughter to me. So if you could, do be careful with the friends you make.
Is this about the rights, sir?
Just a friendly advice from an old man. Don't think much about it. Anyway, I have to leave now. Can't miss my weekly serving of bear claws. Say hi to your parents at the detective inspector for me, will you? I wish.
I will. Thanks for this, Andrew.
Andrew gives me the shoulder a light squeeze. The gesture younger in me always appreciated it, and quickly crosses the street after. I watch him until he disappears behind the door of the cafe, until the doubt swimming inside my head finds a moment to rest. Whatever his business is with the rights isn't anything I should concern myself about. But somehow, in the grand scheme of things now, all it feels oddly relevant. The how, though I've yet to find out. And I'm hoping the library will give me the answer I want this time. On a gloomy Sunday morning, the library is especially empty. The second floor, in particular. I've always considered this the place of sanctuary, a respite away from the hub of the city. As a child, I grew up reading a book here, spending hours here to know and poring over pages, living our fantasies in my head until the partner calls me home. Now it feels nothing like it. The silence is smothering, suffocating. Even with how clean they've kept the microphone room, how entire the small of it lacks specks of dust of clutter, breathing in is a struggle of air. Not far into my stay, I begin to long for the noise outside, and perhaps as a way to calm this unease, I start to hum a tune. Imagine that. Why of all things has it been that silly nursery rhyme? I've not an inkling. It does its job, however. It fills the lull with something far less awkward, far less deafening, and that is enough toward distraction. I have business here. No time for silly daydreams, only important work to attend to. Even if there's a possibility of it being fruitless, by some means, it feels like I have to do it. If not for me, then for the people that has been affected by this. What do we even call this? A haunting? A Halloween prank gone wrong? A curse? If Isabella were here, what would she say? Will she panic? Will she be angry or I only listen to her now? It all stems from that one moment in the movie's house, doesn't it? We could have avoided this had we only taken her warning to heart. One stupid mistake is all it took to send our normal lives on a downward spiral. Frankly, I'm no longer sure if I'm angry at myself for it, or the universe is throwing us into this mess. But we can only make do of what little we have, and that's exactly what I'm doing. Going here might not be the right decision, but it's a start.
A good start.
It doesn't take much time for me to find what I need. A microphone of old newspaper, long kept in a special storage cabinet at the far end of restricted section. The year is 1620s and beyond. Before the city of Luxborn even exists in the records, when the mansion has yet built and the Amsel is more than but small. Sleepy hamlet near a river. A lot of pieces are missing. Days, sometimes several constructive weeks without any records remaining. Often it goes on for years. Troublesome as it is, I'm lucky enough to find anything at all concerning how far I'm looking at it. Can't be picky now. Can't waste time mulling over what the record keepers of the old could have done to make this a breeze for me.
I can still work with this.
A faint whir of the microfine machine keeps me company as I go over each slide, each image, hoping something that goes beyond what the local lore knows. There are snippets, little mentions of the family that once settled in the house here and there. The usual singing of praises for the couple who helped bring up what was once a tiny settlement into a buzzing town. Nothing subnatural, nothing I didn't know before. It continues on like this for a good while, until I come by the years after their deaths. The people of Ansel might have loved Lord William and Lady Isabeth Ermingard, mourned their passing, and held them into high esteem in the years after. But it was their daughter that was reminded fondly by the townspeople. If her parents built this town, Lady Charlotte was the one who made it prosper. Remarkable, considering it was a period of recovery from a bout of the plague that killed half the town's population, including her parents. What's surprising though? Is that her? Free at last. Hire puts a stop to the local slave trade. Apparently her time also marked more superficial changes to the place. She moved things, changed laws, altered old customs and traditions. If they were done on a woman's whimsy, he doesn't say. But she seems capable enough more than that. The gist of it all, the town she rebuilt, it's what eventually grew to become Luxborn City, while the nearby Anselm village remained as it was, a relic of the old. A frown swiftly forms in my face.
So, why is there a need to hide this?
One by one, I try to read. The sirens are going off. One by one, I try to recall every lesson I've gone through, every book, page, and journal I've read. None of these ever mention this. It's always the lord and the lady of the house, their enduring child, always an afterthought of those antecedents. The one who always took her life in the end. It's always been the lord and the lady. So we don't ever see their child because it's missing, right? They said enduring child. And the ones who took life. Okay. Never someone who restored a town from the brink of collapse, or brought new ideas to it. It is because she's a woman?
That pisses me off.
Granted, not everything is sunshines and rainbows. Not all aspects of her can be considered admirable. But this is history. Some part of Bound is naturally delve into unpleasant territories, whether I like it or not. Witch hunts, for example, become common near the end of her life. So they're burning her, because that's her! That's her! Which would have been completely unremarkable. It might have gone to become a mere footnote in history, if it didn't involve Lady Charlotte and the very slaves she saved. It caused quite a stir, enough to leave almost a week worth of clippings. So what I'm understanding is she saved that slave and then took the slave as witchcraft, blah blah blah. The girl was eventually burned, condemned by an entire town, at the word of Lady Charlotte alone. But this doesn't really have anything to do with the curse, does it? Unless that woman following us and the slave are the same person. A tale of revenge? How cliché. However, with the lack of accurate photographs, it's impossible to tell. Maybe if I squint, the illustration would resemble her? But in the field, it doesn't work that way. It shouldn't work that way. I'll be laughingstock of the community.
This isn't going anywhere.
Mentally exhausted, I take a careful step away from the screen, pressing a palm to my tired eyes. The lack of ample light in this area doesn't help. A headache already threatens to form in the back of my head, yet I'm nowhere near figuring these things out. This is simply too much to take in all at once.
I should have asked for someone's help.
Now I'm at a dead end. I start gathering everything around me and placing them back in their respective envelopes for storage. The motion no longer is new, volunteering here a number of times. I didn't make much sense, anyway, considering the lack of materials available to begin with. I'll have to look somewhere else. The where remains unknown, though. But just as I'm about to slip the last of the slides in, something catches my attention. My hands pause. Microfiche halfway through its protective sleeve. This is one of the few I set aside without taking a careful look at. It seems like gossip column at first glance, but upon closer look, I slide it back to the reader, gently turning the dial in search of the pages. It takes some time, but once the image becomes clear, Ermengarde's hire announces betrothal. They must have had this drawing commissioned from the announcement. I don't doubt it. The details are far more intricate, their likeness likely closer to how they might have been appeared at the time. They're both recognizable this way, closer to those paintings I've ever seen in the mansion. However, it's the man standing behind her, Edward Godfrey. According to the article that caught my attention previously, her first cousin, and eventually her fiance. Whoa, what is happening? Maybe it's the posture, and the manner in which he holds himself. Or maybe it's the shape of his eyes. I can't be too certainly about that until I've got a better reference. Nevertheless, this is resemblance. He looks eerily like... My head snaps up, glowering at whoever's running on the floor above. Any day I'd march up the stairs and reprimand whoever it is.
This is a library, for heaven's sake.
But now isn't the time. I've gotten what I needed. Without wasting another minute, I hit the machine print button for a copy of the page, while my other hand moves to put everything back into storage. A ragged exhale slips from me. Relief perhaps, or maybe this is already exhaustion. Regardless, soon, I'm closing my eyes as I wait for the printer to finish, if only to stave off a headache building up from everything. Sometime I've began humming the same song again, for comfort. Despite my doubts about this, despite all the tension in my shoulders, this may be a small find, but at least I could start somewhere. We could start somewhere. There's always a way out of this. I know it. The printer sputters to a halt. However, the sound isn't what makes me snap my eyes open. A feeling, a chilly brush of air behind my back. I breathe enough for something sickening to suddenly lodge itself in my throat while I take in surroundings. It's a suffocating sensation again, creeping in every part of me, crawling under my skin, draining me little by little of any strength. From that day in the mansion, from that brief moment at the school, without delay, I grab the papers and make a quick beeline for the door. Whoa! My whole body freezes.
What are you doing, Miss Pink?
I hold my breath, not daring to make any noise. For any little while, only the sound of papers crumbling under my grasp fills the room. The excitement from earlier gone instantly, replaced by cold, seeping dread, spreading throughout the limbs. But more than that, fear is the anger. It pains me to hear her using my own student's voice against me, and more than once I believed it was really her. She has no right.
Why don't you play with me?
Although she hasn't made a move, if there isn't a wall behind me, I'll probably take a step back. Anything to put distance between us, no matter how small, as long as I'm out of her reach. But I steel myself. Because I do fall back, turn away from her, I'll be left without no way out. I'm not dying here.
You think you scare me?
Miss Pink, don't be so rude. I'm waiting.
I'm not afraid of you, you spook! This is one Scotswoman. You aren't getting into an early grave without a fight! Come at me!
Expected she'll lunge. Prove to me that what a monster she is. Instead, all she gives me is a smile, a twisted gnarl. It's as if this time has crawled into a stop at the sight of it. A split-second decision. And before I know it, my body shifts. Eyes closing in anticipation, hands grabbing whatever's solid enough on a nearby table and hurling it at her. I don't bother looking if whatever I threw hits its mark. I run. As fast as my legs can carry me. Despite my heart threatening to burst out of my chest. But in the maze of bookshelves, with the whole place almost void of people. Head for the door, head for upstairs. Is there even a place safe enough to escape to? I feel like if I head to the door, she might cut me off and kill me. But I feel like if I head upstairs, that's also a death sentence too. Or head upstairs, or is that... This says exit. Head upstairs. This says head for the door. Fuck! I feel like one of these is a trap, but I feel like this is the obvious trap, but I feel like, what if they could think that, like, this is the obvious trap? Head for the door! If there's one thing, it's out of this room, out of this place, as far as anyone can get her away. I can think about the rest of what I can do after I'm outside, when there are people I can ask for help. When she's not chasing after me like this. There's no hesitation in my steps, she's gonna kill me. As I race for the residence section's door, head downstairs and barrel straight for the library's exit. Towards the safety and desperate bit of life, library rules be damned. I can no longer hear her behind me, but I'm not taking any chances. My breath almost escapes me as I near the door. A little more. She's gonna kill me. When out of nowhere, library card Karen's from the blind corner and slams to my side. Get up! Get up! My back hits the floor in hard thud, the impact completely knocking the breath out of me. The copper tang of the blood gradually spread over my tongue as I fight to get my bearings back. I force myself to move, even with excruciating pain coursing through my limbs. The exit's almost there, if only I can. But there's no moment's respite. The next thing I know, there's a heavy weight atop of me. A cold digit slides around my neck, tight like vice, pressing, closing in, leaving me grasping for air. Though my blurred vision, I can only make out the hateful gleam. The spy in her eyes, she looms over my body, and her grip on my throat grows tighter. Desperation kicks in. The nails dig into my wrist as I struggle. It's against my firm grip, trying to pry my fingers away. Ow, ow, she's like slitting her wrist.
Let go. Let me go.
Keep the slider within the green bar. What? I'm confused. I didn't understand what I had to do. My lungs begin to ache, burning with the lack of air. The pain grows worse even with the second I writhe under my push.
Somebody help me.
Darkness starts to fill the edge of my visions, and soon the world fades. Oh, I get it. I don't think twice. My limbs are moving on their own before what I did could fully register in my brain, and my lungs could recover. Behind me, she lets out a cry, sharp and loud, thunders against my empty walls of my library. But the fear her wails bring compares nothing to relief washing over me when I finally make it out. My knees buckle as soon as my feet hit the pavement. It surfaces cold and hard against my skin. I've only been there for a few hours, about 1 or 2 probably. I don't know anymore. It feels like an entire eternity all the same. My breathing hasn't slowed down yet, and I don't expect it to after going through that. I probably look like the most undignified creature on a Sunday morning right now, out of breath, disheveled, slumped here with a bloody limp and all. But at a present, I simply can't bring myself to care, even when a few passers-by started giving me a strange look. Stare at me all you want. I don't give a single shit. I'm alive. I'm safe. This isn't the end, but I'm safe. And inside my bag is something that could get us out of this mess. Not meth. Nothing defiant yet. I don't want to get my hopes up yet, but it's still something. If Isabella's here, I'm sure she'll feel the same. She'll even be the first one who will put her faith on it. Wherever this will lead us is a victory on its own. Now, all that's left is to find the others. The rest of us is untrapped in a bloody nightmare. Right on cue, as if an answer on my previous thought, my mobile lets out a beep. I pick it up simply hoping it's one of them. Only it's a voicemail that greets me. From Ashton? There's a pang of disappointment, of course, but it brings me reassurance that there's nothing happened to at least one of them.
Hey, Becca, call me back when you're free. We need to talk. ASAP.
He ends it right there. The message lasts in a minute. Kurt then gives nothing away. I let it ease my worries, regardless, and does as he asks. Because this, too, is another triumph for us. One less thing to worry about. Alright guys, I'm gonna end it here. This is honestly too bad for me. Like, how do I explain this right? Like, I wish Rebecca had way more in her story. Like, I feel like most of her story was literally just repeats of stuff. And then the whole Luke and Rebecca thing, I just didn't get it. I was just like, I was over the whole thing. And this last chapter, I liked it a lot. And I wish it was more of that. I feel like they just really didn't give Rebecca the chance. As much as I, like, you know, talk shit about her and said all those jokes and stuff, I really did want to see more of Rebecca and see, you know, what other things she had and stuff like that. But I feel very let down about that. But hopefully this picks up with Ashton and this goes somewhere. So keep watching. We're gonna see now Ashton's point of view and see why maybe the ghost isn't haunting him, or maybe she does near the end, but we'll see. Otherwise, check out my other content in my links below. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a great and wonderful day. Bye!